Yeah, Mondays, we get the opportunity to recap Cardinal games with a former Cardinal. Jay Feely kicking it with Jay, brought to you by Wi-Refi, happens right now as Jay checks in via satellite, something. I don't know. Another scenic backdrop from Jay Feely this week.
We're going to do. We're going to start. You have to decide where I am every time. I'm going to give you a new backdrop every
I like
week.
it. I like it. That's a cool thing to do.
I'm guessing you're
That's
back.
the whole thing I do to prepare for this interview is get the backdrop right.
That's right.
It's working. I want to start here, Jay. On one hand, it's one game. On the other hand, seeing Jayden Daniels thrive in a Kingsbury offense in his fourth NFL start compared to what we saw yesterday specifically from Kyler Murray in his 12th start in Petzing's offense. What do you say to Cardinals fans who drew the line yesterday and threw their hands up and have given up on Kyler Murray as the long-term answer at quarterback?
Well, we've been positive on here for a couple weeks.
We have.
And certainly can't be positive this week. It's the game that I feared. It's the game that I expected before the season started, that they would have games like this because they still don't have a roster that's as good as other rosters in the NFL. I didn't think the Commanders would be the team that would come in and run the ball all over them and be the more physical team and play so much better and more efficient. But they beat them in really all three phases. And to me, it's a gut check game for this team and for this staff. They're going to have to try and figure out how to move forward. You know, you have those kind of games throughout the season. I was doing the Raiders yesterday, and they look good the first 2 weeks, and then they play Carolina, who is atrocious, who's so bad the first 2 weeks, and they get their butts kicked by them, and Carolina runs all over them, and you just kind of sit there and you're like, what happened to us? Now, the Raiders were able to rebound and get a decent win against a Browns team that's struggling as well, but that's where the Cardinals are at right now. They're going to have to go back and look, and I mean, the next two games don't get any easier. It's two tough games against two of the better teams in the NFL. But I said before the season started, if you can get through the first half of the season, right, the first 8 weeks at 4-4, that's a really, really good start for this Cardinals team and puts them in a good position to try and compete for a playoff spot. So the first half of their schedule is super hard. I thought the Commanders game was the winnable game in a couple of those games. Now you got to go out and you got to beat a team that probably you shouldn't beat.
After his performance against the Rams, everybody was raving about Kyler Murray. I even said you could win a Super Bowl with that kind of a quarterback. In the last two games, they've scored 27 points. It's the lowest output over a two-game span when Kyler's been healthy since his rookie year. What are they taking away, and what are the Cardinals not doing as an adjustment?
Well, I thought Kyler didn't see it well. You know, I thought he took sacks that he shouldn't take, which goes back to a couple years ago. I thought that, you know, there was opportunities to make some plays and he didn't make them. You know, he wasn't as aggressive running the ball down the field as he had been. And I thought that was a disappointment. But really, this was a defensive game to me, not as much Kyler Murray, because they couldn't get stops and they couldn't stop the run. And they allowed Jayden Daniels to sit back. He had no pressure on him. He was slinging it all over. It looked so smooth. And so you get behind really quick. You know, I go back to the coaching decision when it's 14-7 and you have about a 52-yard field goal right before half. You can cut it to 14-10. It's 4th and 1. And you decide, hey, we're going to go for it right here under a minute. And you don't get it. And you turn the ball over. So the Commanders quickly go down, get in field position, and kick a field goal and go up 17-7 and then double dip and score a touchdown coming out. And all of a sudden, a game that was close that you were in that could have been, you know, a 14-10 game at halftime is 24-7 and the game's gotten away from you. You know, and that's the NFL. Like, if you can double dip, you're going to win most of the games that you do that at the end of the half and the beginning of the third quarter.
I think, Jay, you mentioned a play that I thought was pivotal, but there was even a play, a 3rd and 1 earlier in the second quarter, 14-7 Washington at that point, and the Cardinals had run the ball with success to that point. Again, down only a touchdown. They opt to throw, and then they punt the ball away. And to me, it comes down to, we know what the Cardinals' identity is supposed to be, and that is to be able to run the football, to pound it, and then throw it from that. But it seems like in those key situations, a lot of times early in the season, they've struggled with their identity on those play calls. Do you agree?
I completely agree. And I wrote that down in my notes as well watching that. Like, why right there, James Conner is gashing him. James Conner ran great in the first half. And really all game when he ran the ball. So why don't you come out right there and just say, hey, listen, we're going to run it twice and we're going to go for it. You tell your team on 3rd down, we're going for it if we don't get it. Like, be ready, get right up to the ball, we're running it again. You know, you got to feel like you're going to get it one of those 2 downs, and you have to be committed to that right there. I know it's early in the game, but like you said, it's about attitude. It's about mentality and who you think you are as a team.
When you look at Jayden Daniels, I mean, his start is historic. The numbers, the rating, the efficiency. Are you surprised? I guess that's a dumb question, but
I am.
Yeah.
Yeah. I am. And you know what? I said it this weekend. You know, obviously I'm talking to Antonio Pierce. I'm doing their game. And so there's a lot of Jayden Daniels talk while we were there. And there was a couple of questions that I wanted to ask, you know, and I wanted to say, one, what happened after Jayden's freshman year? Why wasn't ASU able to get the most out of him, and LSU was? And now the Commanders are. Like, he looks like such a different guy. I watched him for those 2 years, you know, and he was such a muted version of himself, you know, when ASU had committed to running the ball and they basically took it out of his hands. And it's just, it blows me away looking back, you know, to think about it, especially since, you know, my son was on those teams and you want to see ASU do well. And I wanted Herm to do well, and I wanted that to succeed. And it just didn't. And it's even more of a reflection on how poorly they did as a coaching staff when you see how well Jayden has played at LSU and then now his first year in the NFL. The second question I wanted to ask AP is, how did you not draft Jayden? How did you not say, no matter what, we're going up and getting the guy? I know him. I know how good he is. You know, and he kind of smirked and said, you know, I can't make everything happen. You know?
We're kicking it with Jay Feely, brought to you by Y-Refi on this Monday morning after a Cardinals loss. We know this, when you have a game like this where it's ripe with storylines, Kingsbury against Murray, Jayden Daniels coming back, everybody tries to downplay everything. And I think it was interesting when you see the reaction in the Washington locker room after Kingsbury calls a great game. They dominate. Jayden Daniels goes off. They win by 4 touchdowns. And you saw the outpouring of emotion and how much this did mean to Cliff Kingsbury and this team. So that's my question, is leading up to a game like this, we should not believe anything that anybody says, correct?
No, don't believe any of the coach speak that they try and say. Whenever I played against a team that had let me go, I was so stinking fired up. Like, I wanted to kill everybody, you know, even at the kicker position. I'm like, please run it up so I can go hit somebody. Like, I just want to make a play. And every guy I know, when they were honest in that locker room, they could not wait to play against a team, especially when a team, not so much when they left in free agency and it was of their own will, but when somebody made a decision that you're not good enough or we don't want you, or for Jayden, like, to not play as well as he did at ASU. And I'm sure there's a lot of frustrations about how they used him and who he was for those couple of years. To be able to come back there and make a statement and play as well as you did, and for Cliff, like, it's so personal. It means so much. And don't ever believe anything any athlete ever tells you when they say it doesn't.
Jay, thanks so much for the time. As always, we will talk to you next Monday.
All right, guys. Great to talk to you.
Thanks, Jay.
Thanks, Jay Feely. Kicking it with Jay, brought to you by Y-Refi every Monday here on Bickley and Marotta Mornings.
Thanks for watching Bickley and Marotta. Click to see the latest Bickley Blast and hit the button in the middle to subscribe to Arizona Sports.